Hey there, and welcome to Go Far Girl, the podcast where women share the stories that changed them one journey at a time. I'm your host, Chantel. I'm a travel writer and a lifelong wanderer, and I believe that every mile we travel brings us closer to the strongest, boldest, most authentic versions of ourselves. Each week, I'll sit down with incredible women to talk about the trips that shaped them, the lessons they learned along the way, and the power of going far in every sense of the word. So grab your coffee, your journal, or your carry-on, and let's dive in. Today on Go Far Girl, I'm joined with Keri. She's a seasoned traveler, a former dancer, a therapist, and a school psychologist who now brings the world to life through storytelling and practical advice. Keri views travel through both an artistic and a human-centered lens, which I think is so cool to get kind of both angles on things. And today she's going to share with us how her relationship with travel has changed from the time she was young to when she studied abroad in college and to now as an older adult, how her travel has changed. So she's going to talk to us about what changes with us, how we gain and grow through travel, and how we can continue that no matter what stage of life we're in. So Keri, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this.
So I'll let you get going on your story. I was just going to ask you two super quick questions first to kind of get us all warmed up. Tell me your favorite destination you've ever been to, which I know is such a loaded question.
Oh, wow, that's big.
I know,
That's really,
but I feel like there's always one that just has your heart just a little bit more.
yeah. I mean, I have places that I've been to and that I've loved, but I went to Ljubljana once.
We
Have you
just
heard of
went
it?
last summer.
Oh, and I called my husband. I said, "Honey, we're moving here." I walked around that town and I just thought, this is magic. I just loved it there. I
The
love
entire country is magic.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous and lovely and quiet and tiny, and nobody sort of knows about it somehow, and
Yes.
everything, the colors. And yeah, no, I really, really want to go back there. I want to go back in the winter. I want to see, all the seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you said that
Yeah.
because, like you said, no one ever talks about Ljubljana with me. And it's so, oh my gosh, we had the greatest time. I love that. All right. So take us back. Let's start. What was your earliest travel memory? How did you kind of get started? Was your family traveling all the time? And then I'll just let you go.
Okay, thanks. So I grew up in Massachusetts. Worcester, Massachusetts is about an hour um, west of Boston. It's the heart of the Commonwealth, the hat of the Commonwealth. And, I'm the youngest of four kids. And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, as women were in the 50s and 60s. And so we did summer vacations to Cape Cod. That was our only travel, pretty much. We went for 2 weeks to the Cape. And then when I got a little bit older, we had cousins in Wisconsin, and those were like my first plane flights. Well, sometimes we drove to Wisconsin, but sometimes I flew out there. And so that was the beginning. But my mother had a very strong wanderlust that I think I sort of inherited. I remember being really little, sitting on the end of my bed, there was a window, and I'd look out and there were these hills near me. I later figured out they were just two neighborhoods away. It wasn't like far. But I was like really little, and I thought, oh, what did those people do all the way over there? Who are they? Like, I remember
Oh my gosh.
imagining, like, what if I could go there someday? Yeah. So anyhow, so I think I inherited that wanderlust, at an early age. And then my parents started to travel more. I think that's what happened. My siblings sort of grew up and moved out, but then my dad's business was taking them places, and then I was the only one home alone. So, they could leave and go traveling more to Europe and Japan and doing bigger kind of trips. And so I think I got more interested then. They didn't.
Did you get to go with them? No, you
No, I
didn't.
did not.
Okay.
Not, but I got more and more interested. And then in college, by this point, I have all of my siblings had done some kind of study abroad or travel piece when they were in college or, that age. And one of my sisters had been to Israel and met her husband. And so by the time I was in college, David was part of our family, and Israel was a big part of our sort of family. And my mother had visited, maybe my dad had gone also. I'm Jewish, and that was like an interest for me. So it was not a popular thing when I was in college for kids to do their junior year. I mean, now everybody does that, but
Mhm.
it was not a thing. And so it was kind of a big deal. I had to sort of organize with, you know, the school and credits and all of that. And anyhow, I figured out how to go to Tel Aviv University for a semester. And a couple of my friends also went with me. And, it was, I mean, it changed my life. It was amazing, right? I had a great time. I learned Hebrew. I met some really amazing friends. The school part was really not that important. I took classes and I was a dance major at my college. So I was supposed to be taking dance classes in Tel Aviv. And I went sometimes and I pretty much didn't go a lot. Every weekend we were away. Once I made this group of friends, we were off and running the whole time. And
Did you stay with a family or did you guys have your own apartment?
no, I was in the dorms.
Oh, in the dorms at the
In the
school.
dorms at
Okay.
the school. And so when the semester was over, friends of mine from home came to meet me, and the idea was we were gonna travel. And I'm not really sure how we pulled all this together, but we all decided, let's just stay in Israel for the summer. So we actually rented an apartment, and I got a job waitressing, and my Hebrew must have been good enough for me to do that, because
Yeah.
I kind of it's not good enough now. I don't know how I did it. And you think back on, like, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers. We wrote letters to come and meet me. How did I know that they were arriving at the airport? I wonder about
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like, how did we figure that out? How did we even know this apartment was for rent? Did we knock on door? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember any of that. But anyhow, we spent the summer there in an apartment and then traveled a little bit, traveled to Greece and did some things coming home. But when I got back to school that fall semester after that whole big adventure, I'd been gone like 9 months or whatever. I just felt so different than my peer group. I felt like we were all seniors in college, and I had this big, massive, eye-opening experience. And I felt like nobody else did. No fault of theirs, but I had gone and seen the big world, and they
You've
had
kind of gotten out of the bubble.
right, because
Yeah.
I'd gone to London and Paris and spent all that time in Israel and went to Greece, and I'd done stuff. So that was that for me. I just kept wanting to travel after that. Then I was a dancer and I got connected to this woman who knew my parent. It was like this very random thing where I got hired to be in a Bugs Bunny show that was going to Mexico. So I was like, I was in, because if they were going somewhere and I could dance in Mexico, what did I care? So I in fact was the Tasmanian devil. I was Bugs's understudy.
Oh
We
my gosh.
danced with a circus. It's called the Attidy Circus. I don't know if they still exist, but they were like the Barnum and Bailey of Mexico. They were like a very big deal circus in Mexico. And somehow they were connected to this Warner Brothers touring group where there was a Bugs Bunny storyline along with the baboon ladies and the elephants and the trapeze and the little people. It was just like this wild thing that happened. And we spent this summer in Mexico City with the circus people and these other dancers that were mostly, everyone was living in New York at that time. I was the only one who hadn't been dancing in New York yet, because I had just graduated college. So it was a wild time. It was really fun. I was Bugs's understudy. We toured around Mexico a little bit and we were on TV and stuff, but mostly we were at this big stadium in Mexico City. And at the end of the show, when I was understudying for Bugs, I would get picked up onto these two elephants' trunks, and I would swing on the elephants' trunks and have to wave up to the kids, like way, way, way up in the stadium. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, I know. It is too bad that there's not a video recording of it. So that was great. It was great. And then when I came back, I moved to New York, and then I was auditioning and teaching exercise and dancing and waitressing and doing all the things to survive in New York. And then that same company, the Warner Brothers group, sent me on a couple more tours around the United States. And So then I was Daffy Duck for a few months, and yeah, I
Say
got
that.
paid and I got to travel, and it
Yeah.
was all good. It
Did
was
you
all
love
good.
Mexico City? Did you get time when you were doing these shows to get out and explore a little bit, or was it really all
Yes.
work?
Yeah, no, everybody had one day off, 14 shows a week, like 3 shows on Sunday, 3 shows on Saturday. It was a very busy schedule. But this understudy system allowed everybody to have one day off, and you had a buddy who had your day off with you or something. So we could go to the pyramids and go to do different things. And there was a group of men who I don't know how they found us or we found them, but they were wealthy, like older men who just, of course, all these New York showgirls like were in town. So they wined and dined us. They took us to all these fancy restaurants and to the horse races, and they took us all around Mexico City, which is a very gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever
I haven't
been.
been. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful place. And so we got a little bit of everything. We got touring and seeing the historic sites, and then we got this other nightlife experience, and then
Amazing.
yeah. No, it was a pretty fun time. I was in my 20s. I mean, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It was good.
I want to go back to Tel Aviv real quick before we get too
Yeah.
far into your story. Tell me about that when you got there. I'm sure it's just a totally different world than what you're used to in Massachusetts and school. What kind of struck you the most? What did you feel? How was that when you first got off the plane and you were like, okay, I'm here now in Israel? Is it what you thought? Is it not what you thought? How did that sort of
Okay. Well, so first, let's just preface this by I think everything's very different there now.
course?
Very, very different there now than it was in the 70s, right? So this was 1979. So a couple things are very striking there. It's old. Everything's really, really old, right?
Like biblical old.
Older than old, New England, older than old Europe. It's very, very old. So that is always hits me. Sort of anytime I'm at something very ancient, I have an emotional experience with that. It's that I can't really describe it other than that. So that's very striking. The other thing that, as a Jew, it's kind of uh, sort of profound that pretty much everybody's Jewish. Like all of a sudden, nobody is, and then everybody is, and so that was sort of interesting. So I remember those two things really affecting me. Plus the language, I mean, as you know, everyone around the world speaks English. They just all do. They grow up learning English, they speak English, they do, right?
Right.
But when you're immersed someplace for that many months where you're not hearing English all the time, I don't remember being tired at the time, but I imagine it's pretty exhausting, right in the beginning. But then I was thinking, dreaming, yelling. I could like be sort of quick. I mean, my Hebrew is not good at all anymore because I don't.
Did you know some Hebrew before you went?
Okay, so good question. So growing up, I went to Hebrew school. We belonged to a temple, and so that all that meant was that I learned how to read and write Hebrew. So that helps me. Before I went, knowing that I was going to go, in that fall semester of my junior year, I did a very intensive Hebrew class. They didn't offer it at my college, but I did it on. Now, how did I do that online? Now that I'm thinking that there wasn't an online. So must have been some tapes, some recordings, like listen and
Probably.
repeat. I must have done. And then when I got there, I don't know, the first probably 5 weeks of the semester is we did what's called an ulpan, where that's all you do every day is learn Hebrew. Like you're not in the other classes. Like eventually I took an archaeology class and a music class and different things. But the beginning, you're learning Hebrew, so you learn fast,
Makes sense.
or faster than you would otherwise. Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking about that even when we were in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, of course, where people spoke English, but we did kind of go into some remote areas and people really didn't speak as much. And I feel like when I go some places, in Europe, Italy, Rome, or Italy, France, wherever, you have those same root words that you can kind of pick out. alphabet is the same. You can kind of get your way around. But in Slovenia, I didn't. And there were even in Greece, honestly, Greece is really hard for me to travel through because I don't recognize all the letters. I don't know what the sounds are. And
Right.
we'd go places and they wouldn't speak English or well enough. And we had to go to like a pharmacy and do all of these crazy things. And it made me think about people that come to the United States with not knowing the language as well and just trying to survive every single day, bring how exhausting that must be and just overwhelming because even if you know a little bit of English coming to this brand new country where all it is and it's surrounded, there's just things you're not going to know. And there's things that are going to take time. And it's just got to be so overstimulating. And I think more for people now than I did before because I know what it feels like, even just for 2 weeks, to be like,
Right.
I don't
Right.
know.
And think about
You know?
immigrants. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
And
come
they
and
just
there's
figure,
nobody to help them. There's
yeah.
like just about nobody that's speaking their language. You know, I mean,
And
there's,
some people are kind of mean, right? Like, oh, you just speak English. Well, I can't. But I
yeah.
think that that's one of the good things about travel too, is it does open your eyes to certain things like that and makes you realize that there's so much more than like your center of the world. And I think it helps you like understand people on a different level too.
Yeah. And it builds community. I remember this time at the end of that Israel trip, and then my friend and I went to Greece, and we were in Athens, and we got on the wrong bus, and we were trying to find the Acropolis, and nobody spoke English on the whole bus, not the bus driver, not one person on that bus. And so we're describing Acropolis, we're saying it, a million different ways, and we're trying to find, and then somebody, spoke French, and my friend spoke a little French, and then somebody else, so they were able to translate that. Somebody else spoke Hebrew, and then somebody else talked to me. So there was a way that like it took like 5 people on the bus to help us figure out that we were on the run bus and how to get on the right one and what to do. And people were willing to help. People were, I mean, that's one of my favorite things of traveling is that people by and large are really, really sweet and lovely and want to help. Oh,
Yeah. It brings you back to humanity because I think a lot of times like we're just so busy and in our own head, we don't realize that. But yeah, it is so nice to
yeah,
see.
yeah. No, that is really a beautiful part.
All right. So after your dancing, then you
Oh.
had your family.
Right. So then, yeah, so I left New York in sort of a weird state. Things were working out as well. And I had decided to go to graduate school to become a dance therapist. So I did that. And that's what led me to San Francisco because I spent a year in graduate school in New Hampshire and then came to San Francisco for my internship. And that's when I met my husband. Almost as soon as I got out here.
Really?
Through
Is he from the Bay?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And through a mutual friend, through a woman that I was a roommate, it's a long story. I won't bore you with that. But anyhow, I mean, it's a good story, but it's a long one. So, yeah, so I met him when I first moved out here. And then I was working as a dance therapist and we got married. And then a few years later, we had the girls. And so during that whole time, there wasn't a whole lot of travel, right? It was going back to Massachusetts to see my family, when the girls were little, getting them on airplanes like at 4 months old and schlepping them back, to Massachusetts. So that was the only travel we did pretty much when the girls were little. And then I was just dying to go somewhere, I was just so I remember this year when we said, okay, we're going to save up our money. We're going to take the girls to Europe. And they were in elementary school. They were little. And we figured out how to get them to London and Paris. And we had this amazing trip. We did this great trip with them when they were really young. And then that was that. Then we were all of us on board with, let's go anytime we can. Yeah. So both my girls, when they were in high school, both did a semester abroad in high school. One went to Brittany and the other went to Belgium.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, I had to go and visit them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So traveling with kids when they were little was a lot different, obviously, than traveling with them now and as young adults. Um, you've done it, I'm sure. Yeah. You have to really, really just accept the fact that, you know what, you're not going to see the whole Lou. Okay. Well, she's outside the museum vomiting because she has really bad jet lag. So Dad, you stay with her. Mom will go in and see the Venus de Milo, come back out, take the other up, let's switch. But I mean, those kinds of things happen, you know? Yeah. I think my issue when the girls were little was that I wanted to see things and I wasn't planning around them and their needs. And I think that was a big error as a mom. I wasn't focused enough on the food and like when you need to eat and how often you need to stop.
That's a good point.
And I wasn't focused on how jet lagged they were going to be and how they weren't going to bounce back, quickly. And they weren't going to sleep okay and everything was going to be disrupted. And like, I needed to go see the queen. I get me to Harrods. Yes. But it didn't work out. It totally didn't work out. Like my little one, that very first trip, she really didn't feel well every day from waking up until about, I remember like 11 in the morning or noon, then she would feel fine. So it must have been her whole little body and her whole little system. And right. And so I was it took me a while not to be like anxious and frustrated and like just be patient. And this is it. So I learned some hard lessons in the beginning. Yeah.
It's part of it though, right?
Right. Right.
We still learn the lessons as we travel. We still do things where we're like, that sounded better in my head.
Right. Right.
So
right.
How are you traveling now? So the girls are older.
So the girls are older and they do a lot of their own travel now. They're really good travelers and they love to go. And both, they did their high school abroad and then in college, they both did it abroad time. And so they're off and running. They would love to keep coming with us, but just recently we're in the place where they're working and we're retired. So we can't really afford the family of four.
And that's why they want to go with you, because that's what my boys like. Oh, there's already Airbnb.
Oh yeah, you're paying for it. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So now I would say in the past, for a long time I've had this group of girlfriends, the women that I literally grew up with. I've known them my whole life, and we do a trip not every year, but pretty much every year. And so we all have had our early marriages and our children and now our retirement age sort of all together. So those early trips would be maybe 2 nights away at like Yosemite. And then it started to be maybe 3 nights. And then it started to be maybe a bigger Airbnb or a nicer hotel. And then we went to Costa Rica and then we had to have a week and then we had to have chefs and then we had to... So that level of travel, because we've all sort of paralleled each other's lives in terms of time, finances, all those things, we've been able to really do some fabulous trips with that group of girlfriends, which is great.
Just keep leveling up together.
Yeah. No, we just went to Death Valley together, which have you done a Death Valley?
How is it?
Unbelievable. It's a place like it's been on my bucket list for a long time, and I live in California, but I had never been. It is like being on a different planet. Every place in that national park looks different than your sand dunes and desert, and then there's these salt flats, and then there's these red rock mountains, like in Utah or Arizona, and then there's these golden mountains, and then. It's really, you're on the moon all the time.
And is it Artist Point or something where there's colors in the...
Yep. There's a place called Artist Palette and there's green and pink and gold and it's really magnificent. Honestly, there's a volcanic crater there. You could drive for hours and hours and still be in the national park.
Where did you guys stay?
So this is what works for us, for this group of girlfriends who like the luxury stay, because there's 2 places. One is called the Oasis Inn and one is the Oasis Ranch. And the ranch is supposed to be the sort of the less luxury, but there are these gorgeous cabins, like these they're very cute cottages that, two people into a cottage in this nice little village. It's very quaint, it's beautiful. There's a swimming pool, there's restaurants, there's a little general store, there's a shuttle that takes you to the fancier inn with the nicer restaurant. When originally we were going to stay at the inn, but it was much more expensive and they actually didn't have rooms for us for those days or something. But we're so happy we ended up at the cottages at the ranch because they were really, really nice, really nice. So I highly recommend Death Valley. Great. It was
So
really
we're trying to see all the national parks, so we do need to get there eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one that I always just don't think about, I guess, when I'm planning.
Well, you can't go in the summer, obviously.
No, sure.
Yeah. 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 So springtime is the best. We were hoping for wildflowers, like they're supposed to be super bloom, but apparently it happens like every decade. So we did not see one flower.
No? When did you go? What month were you there?
Just last month. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No flowers, no wildlife, but it didn't matter. It was great.
So stunning. I love that it's so different than other places too. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you doing solo travel right now too, or just?
So, so my husband and I have a 35th wedding anniversary trip, and we're going to be gone the whole month of September. Basically, we're going to London and Ireland and Scotland and Portugal. Okay, well, I'll have to talk to you about it because I'm super excited. Yeah, can't wait.
Have you been?
No.
You're going to want to move there.
Oh, really?
In one day, you're going to be leaving.
Okay.
I don't know if they have like some sort of like drug in the air or something, but you breathe it and then it gets to you and it never leaves. I'll be just like doing the dishes. Sometimes I'm like, I should just go to Scotland. Like it's just, I don't know. I can't wait for you. Oh my gosh.
Okay. How long were you there?
We were there 7 or 8 days.
Oh, okay.
So we did a girls trip there last year. Jessie from Brighter Things and I hosted some girls and we went. Jessie goes about like 5 times a year. She is like obsessed with it. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. But now I'm obsessed with it. And I mean, oh my gosh, I can't. Well, this will.
I'm super excited.
27 episodes on my love of Scotland, but and then so what I did is we went with the girls to Scotland. We did Edinburgh, and then up to Inverness and over to Isle of Skye. We did like an Outlander tour to all the castles from the movie scene. It was really cool. But then when everyone left, I took a train to York and stayed for a week by myself in York. Met up with my friend Coralie, who lives in Harrogate, pretty close to York. So she took me up through like Northmoor Park and over to some of the abbeys, and it was the best trip. But 100%.
Oh, can't wait!
I can't wait. You are just gonna have this stuff for you.
Yeah, we're very excited. We're very excited. So that'll be we haven't done a big trip, just the two of us, ever like that. I think the last time we were in Europe, we had the girls with us, and it was 2019. It was Christmas time. We often will travel at Christmas time. That's my birthday time, and that's when everybody had time off. Now my husband and I are not working as much, but the girls would have it off, and so we often travel then. And we all got a little bit sick at the end of that trip, and who knows if it was COVID or not?
Say it's right in that time frame.
It was right. It was December of 2019 was the last time we went to Europe together. But then I got to go. So here's another thing that I launched my getting paid to travel episode of my life. We have friends my husband's a musician, and we have friends who own a company that takes high school and college orchestras and choirs around the world to festivals and performances and that sort of thing. And a few years ago, it was 2022, or maybe it was 21. Anyhow, it was in pandemic time. She called me on a Tuesday in the summer and said, do you want to go to Europe on Thursday? One of her workers had gotten COVID and couldn't go. And it was a 3-week trip with, like 200 families of high school students and traveling. That's when I got to go to Slovenia. We went to Czechoslovakia. We went to Dresden. We had Vienna. It was fabulous. It was great. So I got paid to go. I met fabulous friends. I had work, but it was being on the bus with the families and the other tour guides who were sort of taking us around, and then the kids were performing, and it was like, oh my God, I've arrived. I'm literally getting
This is the
paid.
life. Yeah.
And 5-star hotels and all the meals covered and all it. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. So that same company has just asked me to go to Australia this summer.
Of course, you said no.
I was like, oh, who wants to do that? I'm not going to Sydney.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So excited.
Super excited. So I'll be like with the group for like 4 days. So I have like a week in Sydney that I'm sort of officially getting paid for. And then my friend, one of these high school friends, is going to come and meet me. And then we're going to go to the Great Barrier Reef. And I know, it's good. It's good.
Is the life.
So talk about like how things evolve. Now I'm like, hey, you know what? If we are going to go do this, then, I'm going to spend the money I'm making on the trip because I want to stay at the really nice place in this Fitzroy Island. Send me to the resort or send me, I mean, it's July and the weather's not, it's not.
It's going to be super hot because it's winter.
It's winter, but apparently Great Barrier Reef is like in the 70s.
Yeah.
That time of year. So, right. So I don't feel like, back to just sort of how I'm evolving as a traveler, I don't feel like, not that I have tons of money, but I also feel like I'm not willing to budget and worry and, that way that we used to have to travel, like
sleep on the ground or in a hostel or something.
Well, yeah, definitely not with the backpack and the hostels anymore. I mean, I did that in college and that was that. But even now, I want to stay at a nicer place and I want to eat at the nicer places and I don't want to sort of worry about those things, or I want to be able to take an Uber or a car instead of like figuring out the public transportation with my suitcase and my,
Sure.
that kind of thing. I just, yeah, I'm just not willing to sort of struggle as much. Not that it's like a big struggle. I know that sounds, but you know what I mean? Like sure. I want to enjoy the reasons I'm there and not have all those transitions be stressful.
I love that. I think we earned that though. I think we put in our time with the other things. And it's funny because I used to say, I'll just get the cheapest hotel because it's just a place to sleep. And so my husband got really used to that. But now when I travel, he's like, it's a really nice place. I'm like, oh yeah, we are staying somewhere like with we're not doing this. So it's funny that you said that. It makes me feel valid because I'm like that too. I'm like, he's like, well, it's just a place to sleep. I'm like, and it's going to be dang comfy too. I want 27 pillows and I want it to smell delightful and I want it to, like about
right. And you want to feel safe and you want, all those things. And like you were saying, you're exhausted sometimes when you're traveling. And so you want to be able to be comfortable and and have it be clean and nice. Yeah. Yeah. So, so I don't, compromise on some things now that I used to. Like I remember when my oldest was in New Zealand for her study abroad. So I took my younger one and we went and we had an amazing, amazing trip. But it was November and it rained and we're like schlepping our suitcases like through the rain, trying to get to the car rental place and everything's breaking and fall, and like, no, and it was like, what, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore.
I want to think about it.
Right.
So what would you say the one piece of advice you have for women right now? Like no matter what stage they're at, if they're like, oh, just it's not going to work at this stage of my life. What would your be advice? You've been through all the different stages. You've done the hard stuff. You've done the fun stuff. What would you say to someone who's kind of
I would say make it happen. I would say that I think finances are a thing that really hold people back from doing things, or maybe that's an excuse. Maybe they're nervous to go, and so they say, "Oh, I can't afford it," that kind of thing. So I think that it's really good for women to get out there, especially if you've been working your whole life and you've been the mom and you've been doing all the things for other people. I think it's really good so you can go local. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be some huge major trip, right? It can be local or it can be an organized tour. I think this works really well for a lot of people. Not my thing, but people, cruises or, these group tours, like you said, that you took a group of women on shore. So that feels organized and safe. And I know people who are doing National Geographic tours, or everybody's offering amazing tours. And yeah, they might be costly, but that's a good way to get out there, especially people my age or older. There are lots and lots of senior tour companies, and
you're paying for the convenience of not having to worry, not having to think about the itinerary, not having to take your bag in and out of the hotels and the stuff. You're paying for that too, and you're just able to experience it without the chaos.
right, and they tell you where to eat, and they've bought the plane tickets, and they're handling all those things. So I think that if women are tentative, then that's a good way to start. Or literally just a weekend away, by yourself or with your girlfriend is great.
It could be in your town. If you get a different hotel in your town and just
Right.
don't be in your own life.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you and catch up?
Carrie
We all got to see Sydney. We got to see
No,
Scott.
that's right. I have a lot. I have a lot to write about. Well, I'm at kerrygreensinn.com, and my Instagram is Keri Greens In, and my Facebook is Keri Greens In, and everything is Keri Greens In. So it's easy to find me. Yeah.
All right. I'll have some links for those down in the transcript,
Okay,
so people
great.
click on them easy. But thanks so much for hanging out.
Thank you. It's so good to catch up with you.
Absolutely.
Fun.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to be back next week with another episode from Carrie. She's going to tell us all about New York, which is one of her favorite travel places. All right. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Go Far Girl. If this episode made you smile, dream a little bigger, or realize it's never too late to book the trip, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a friend. And hey, we've got an amazing group of women waiting for you inside our Facebook community. Just search Go Far Girl. Come on in and say hi. And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and never stop going far.